So this is the demo where we go over the different charts in that. I do have some basic structure that seems to be sticking, cascade style sheets in that. Shouldn't take that long to read the directory, but it did. And, so I've got file in different JSON formats ready to go. Docs page, a little markdown file explaining what I'm trying to do here. Keep me on track, that would be the goal in that. Images, which is mainly just the fave icon thing. Do note this, I have a node modules folder, and so this is where my development server is installed locally inside this project. And so I do have a package JSON, and I do have a start script. So I'm going to fire that up. That's the plan anyway, and get that rolling. It is much faster than this. Again, I'm still having some issues of things slowing down a lot when I do video capture in that. So let's, if it'll let me, I'll keep going through the directories here. So I have a bunch of JavaScripts, one for each file. I think I'm pretty consistent in here with the technique that I'm using in that. We're not going to go into detail on all of these, but it's sort of like whirlwind tour on what's happening. I do have an index page that basically links in all these other ones in that. So there's my index page, and it basically links in all these different line charts and bubble charts. While I was talking, it looks like the server did its thing. It's up and running. So I'm going to go over to my page. Voila, there it is. So this isn't supposed to be fancy because this is really about, testing out the different charts. So let's do it real quick. Whirlwind tour, just so that they're working, that kind of stuff. Got a line. Now, the animation you might notice is different. I picked up on this. If I make a chart preloaded with the data, I notice the animation goes from the bottom to the top. However, if I make a chart, load the data later, then it seems to go from like a left to a right animation in that. Subtle little difference in that area. Just a line chart with a fill turned on down to the origin. Bar chart, okay, you can see them sliding in. This is sliding in from the left technically. Well, sliding in from the right towards the left. Bubble, right? That one explodes out. Bubble's interesting, right? Because it's got the X and the Y and a radius. Donut is just a pie with a hole, right? The width of the segment depends on how much proportion you have. Pi is just going to fill it into the center, right? Nothing too fancy there. In that polar's different. So if I had 6 things, it's 360 degrees. They'd be 60 degrees each. But what changes is that radius, how far the pie draws out. And then they show you, and that's why they have this scale here, so you can sit there and go, okay, 200 or something like that. So it's a different way of showing the data. Radar, again, each multiple axes. To get this to work kind of right, you need these to be all rated like from 0 to 100, all these different dimensions. The classic work in GIS to do that, right? And so it draws like a little polygon. Probably important on this to set the color to semi-transparent so that you can see the scale in behind. So colors are important at that point. Scatter is going to be like bubble. I'll use the exact same data, but they're meant to look like small circles, all the same size, so there's no radius kind of concept. So what we'll do here is, those are the kind of charts that you can make. There's a lots of playing around you can do with the fills on the lines and stuff to tweak them. And sometimes you want to have multiple things on a chart, multiple series. And that, I just want to go over some of this. And so what we'll do is we'll go in behind and take a look at a couple of them in that. So we'll look at it. One of the first ones I did was line. So we'll take a look at line. The rest of them follow a similar pattern. I think I updated them to I guess do a fetch. Make the chart first, do a fetch towards the end, and do an update on the chart in that. So classic head, you got to have your link into your JavaScript library here on line 6, and that. So I have a div with a canvas inside, right? So the div we're going to style to be a certain size. The canvas is where the chart's going to go. And then I bring in my JavaScript in that. And so I guess let's go take a look at that JavaScript file in that. So we'll pop open this directory and we'll go to line.js and then take a look at the JavaScript code. I might have to click a little harder. No, there it happened. Like I said, there's big lag, big issues in terms of video capture this week for some reason. Some update came through and hammered something in that. So we'll just scroll up. So because these are not contained inside a function, this code will run immediately. So once I import that script, this code starts running. So I make something called all chart data, and it has data sets, and there is a label for the graph. There's a border and background color, and there's some data, but notice it's empty on line 7. There's there's a placeholder there for data, but I don't have the data yet. Then I make a chart. Well, I configure a chart. I don't make it till later. So 12 to 17, I'm making the chart. What type are you? Where's the chart.data? Remember, it goes chart.data.datasets, some index number .data, and that last .data is the stuff we'll look at in the JSON file. But here I'm just setting it up. Okay, that basically it's a line chart, and the data.datasets is pointing to all chart data above. That. So if it will be kind, will it be kind today? Let's see, scroll a little bit. That. So 19 is pretty important. This is sort of where I make a new chart. I stick it in the canvas, right? So 20, document get element by ID. Go find the chart canvas. We're going to be sticking the chart in there based on the configuration information from above. Okay. Now the interesting part is this fetch. It's the promise style. We're going to get into more of that. So I basically say, hey, go get this data from my data folder called line data. My browser and the web server are going to talk about 4 times, right? There's going to be about 4 callbacks. On the 4th one, the data is actually come across. It's going to be pretty fast, but there's typically response code 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is good. 4 means all the data is here and you got it. And so I take that response, turn it into JSON, and then I send it to the update chart method function on line 30. If there's a problem, I print out the error to the console. All function.chart does is says, look, chart.data.datasets at 0. .data, so the raw data, right? The stuff that is used as the X and Y, the stuff that is needed to make the line chart or the graph / plot. I drop into place, but I don't really have that until the server returns it to me. And the important method I saw was to tell the chart to update itself. Hey, I just swapped out your data. You need to redraw yourself. And this would be the same, like, if you did a simple thing like added one more point, one more label and one more point, like one more bubble, one more scatter dot to your scatter plot, one more vertice to your line. You could change the data, but you're going to have to tell the chart to update itself and redraw itself. And that's that animation you see where it flies in from the right into the left, right? That's what's causing that different animation in that. It took me a while to find that little dot update in that. So I set up my data structures for the chart and that and my data sets. I then do the fetch when the data comes back from the server, because this is how it would be. Someone would, tap on something, touch something, hey, or if you've ever been on a Fitbit and you say, hey, show me the graph for my heart rate or something. When you tap on that, it goes, grabs the data from the server and draws the graph for you, which is kind of what we're doing here. That's what the fetch on 25 through 21. Now, all those lines from 1 all the way up to 28 are going to run, okay? Function only gets called because it's mentioned here on line 27 to update the chart and that sort of thing. Technically, I could squeeze all of this in on line 27, but it gets kind of noisy and hard to read and that. So a lot of this stuff is just setting up the chart, because there's a lot to set up a chart. There's titles and labels and axes and data in that. And things need colors if you want to be able to see them. So again, just to review, I got this thing called all chart data, right, which is really just basically an object with a thing called data sets, which is an array, right? And those arrays are meant to represent the series of data you want to draw, and you need to color them so you see them, and they need a bunch of data points. It's just that by line 7, I haven't got the data yet. I'm just leaving a placeholder there, right? I'm telling it's a line chart. Your data is from all chart data above in any option. Sometimes there's parsing options in that you might want to get involved in. I make the chart. Got to hunt down some HTML to know where to stick the chart and use all the configuration information from above. The fact that you're aligned, the fact that you have these colors, the fact that you have like, it's a one data set series, but the data is blank. And then fetch the data and then punch the data into the chart.data sets at some index.data. Put those values in there. And that. It might as well look, what does the data look like, right? So what am I actually dropping in on line 31? And so it's the line data. This could be a simple key value pair. We'll know in a few seconds. Ooh, no, it's fancy. Look at that. That's the one I'm using? Well, it is the one I'm using in that. Because I was playing, like I said, I started playing around saying, what if I tried this? Will it blow it up? In that. And the big thing is I'm using an array of objects. And I'm using what I noticed on the bubble chart in one of their examples, that if I use the keys X and Y as my keys, so X Monday, Y, I'm looking at line 2, so that first key value pair, X Monday followed by Y10, that is enough for the system. Without you telling it, it can figure out, hey, no, I found something called X something Y. I'll use the X as labels. I'll use the Y as the, values to be plotted. And so it would be great if they more directly addressed this in the doc. But after seeing some examples, I started trying stuff and say, oh, okay, that's what's going on, right? But again, this would only work for charts that have like an X and Y axis. And I think I said in the lecture that once you get to donut, pie, polar area actually, and radar, the concept of an XY axis doesn't quite apply because we're drawing in a circle, or in radar we have multiple axes, and so we're drawing all over the place. But it will work for, line, bubble needs a little bit more, it needs radius, scatter, and that sort of thing. So we'll leave the demo here. Just wanted to show you the different charts, walk through one. We'll dig in the details on what the fetch is really doing and that in future demos. But that's all for now.